to Nomad at Night, starring the one and only Nomad.
Yo, no maniacs. Welcome to the show. This is Nomad at Night, and we have the wrong background up right now, but we can fix that. But welcome to the show. This is Nomad at Night. I'm your host, Nomad, and I got my guy. My guy is the trusty Canuck, man. He's in the building along with J2K. We had an interesting conversation in the background. J2K, Chris, if you can put his avatar solo on the screen, man, that would be great, because he made this great avatar here. And it's in the tradition of Cinco de Mayo. And by the way, happy Cinco de Mayo to anybody celebrating Cinco de Mayo and out, whether you're out and about and having a good time at home, wherever you are, if you're celebrating Cinco de Mayo and having a good time, I hope you're doing it safely. But how about this? Let's let J2K describe what this avatar is about.
So this is Cinco de Mayo. This is a sugar skull. So this is celebrating Day of the Dead. And it's an iconic image in the Spanish Hispanic culture.
And so I thought it was pretty cool, man. J2K, he put it together, and I guess you put it together in like 30 minutes. You were a little bit unsure about it, right?
It's a little bit wild. I just wanted to get your guys' vote of approval on it before we debuted it to the No Maniacs.
Okay. Anybody here recognize Spanish? Speak Spanish at all?
I do read Spanish. Very little. But,
okay, so King Buka World is saying something here. I don't know what exactly he's saying.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. Okay. So now this goes along with the imagery. I think it goes all the way back to Mayan culture. This imagery right here, and I'm one of those historian type guys that don't know a whole lot about jack shit, but I have done a little bit of research on, ancient Latin culture, and the Mayan culture always comes up. And the Day of the Dead is one of the, constant themes that run throughout, Latin culture. And this imagery, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, yeah, that's people who recognize true Latin culture will see that right away and know exactly what it is. I thought it was par for the course. I like it. I don't care what anybody says. You might not like it, but I love it.
Thank you. I think it looks cool, and you guys all liked it, so we're gonna roll with it tonight.
All right, let's do that, man. All right, so kids, man, I heard the entire. You can switch it back. Okay, I heard the entire country of Canada is flying with their flags at half staff right now, due to the passing of Drake, the rapper.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say because the Toronto Maple Leafs lost in the playoff bid again. Like that's the real reason why Canada's crying. Toronto Maple Leafs again. I'm not a Leafs fan, but I will say that it was to be expected. They've never played in June, and apparently Drake feels similarly. He's also been knocked out of the playoffs. We'll see if he comes back with another track. Because to be honest with you, like, man, if you guys are out there, I see Jay Grizz. Jay Grizz brought it up immediately. So here we go, Jay Grizz.
What do you say? Okay, this one.
There you go. Big Ked's a Canuck. You convinced yet? Kendrick Lamar is him. I didn't really need any sort of convincing there. I think Kendrick Lamar is just an amazing talent across the board. I'll give him little scouting report and stuff. Anyways, he's Kendrick Lamar is a guy, but man, which track was it? His new track that he just dropped. Then there's two of them, if not three, if you haven't heard them all. But one of them is wicked good. One of them is wicked evil. Like in response to Drake. And I also have to say, surprisingly, Drake's responses ain't terrible. They're not terrible,
Man, kids, listen, man. I'm just gonna say it to you like this. I've seen toe tags before. This dude's rap career in the United States. Now, I'm not saying he can't go to Canada other places, other foreign countries, and get a rounding standing ovation. Here, he's gonna get booed, especially if he goes out to the West Coast for sure.
Drake making music for girls, bro. He's not really making music for for rap sake, which is why I'm kind of surprised that he even got caught up in responding to any of this. But left, right, and center, I ain't arguing with you. He's getting bodied, man. He's getting bodied. Kendrick is, apparently Drake got some more kids. Moral of the story: apparently Drake got more kids. There's more kids out there.
You know what? My take on it. My take on it. See, I'm gonna get a little bit deep now, kids. When I go here now, let's keep it on the surface between the two rappers and where I'm gonna go, man. Let's try to keep politics out of this thing, but it's a cultural thing for me. It's a cultural thing for me. To me, Drake is all about. He's basically more or less. I think Kendrick might have said this in one of his lyrics. At least one of the bars, he might have mentioned that. He's out to. Kendrick said he's out to inspire, and Drake's out to pacify. And like Drake plays to the absolute worst instincts of the pop culture out there. The drugs, the carrying on, the constant partying, and the irresponsibilities, the just not, I think especially when I'm talking individually, I'm a member of human society, but I'm a particular member of the Black culture, and the Black culture is hip hop for the most part. That's the pop culture rather, and I think he sends the absolute wrong message. And at 36 years old, 38, however old he is, I think his message should change. He should be inspiring, and instead, man, I think he's what's wrong with pop culture, and why the younger people, like the teenagers to the 20-something-year-olds, are not in a good spot in a society. It's because of people like him. He's all about fame, fortune, and more of it, and that's it. And he's out there to flaunt it. People like him, Rick Ross, Diddy, these people are the reason why some people with youngsters bringing them, raising youngsters under them are having a hard time with them, because the culture is all about drugs and all the excesses of life, and it's just absolutely. I don't like his music. I'm just going to be quite frank with you. I'm trying to tap dance around it, but I flat out don't like Drake's music. Don't like the message he sends. And Kendrick Lamar, on the other hand, you can sense that he's got a sense of responsibility about the platform that he has, the mantle that he holds, and the voice that he carries weight, and he knows his words really reverberate throughout the culture, and he's conscientious about it. Drake doesn't give a F. He doesn't. All he cares about is wealth and flaunting it. That's the part, I'm absolutely happy to see him getting drugged about this, man, because I'm tired of seeing the youth suffer and try to mimic everything they hear this dude say, and whatever he does, they try to mimic it. And so that's just my whole thing about it. I never liked, what he put out there anyway.
Well, you went real far with that. If you don't like Drake, that's cool. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that shit. What I don't blame Drake for is 90% of what you said. I mean, that stuff existed well before him. It will exist, far after. Reason being, sex, money, and murder sells. About that simple. Drake didn't invent it. He's just another guy profiteering off of it, one of many. So I won't blame Drake for profiteering. Everybody's out there trying to make a buck, including Kendrick Lamar. I am gonna say that lyrically, Kendrick Lamar is and always was leaps and bounds beyond Drake. Like he just is. And what you find in these tracks, for the most part, he's just trolling, and he's also saying likely very real things if you're paying attention about Drake. And again, like one of those real things being Drake might have a couple of the kids. But he's trolling for the most part. There's really only maybe a verse and then a full track where Kendrick's really going. And when he's really going, man, holy smokes, you don't want to be standing in front of that. You don't want to have anything to do with that.
I think Immortal is Immortal and Do It All. I've got a comment started for him. I'm going to bring that up in just a second. We're going to spend some time talking to you guys. Spend quite a bit of time talking to you guys. It's going to be a hell of a long show tonight, but we're going to spend quite a bit of time trying to interact with some of the viewers, man. But he's saying it's degrading as fuck. It's trash. And it is, talking about Drake and all the messages he put out there. I mean, I think here's what Do It All said, and I think he sums it up about as well as you can. This is Do It All 36. He says Drake is a tool of the power structure. Those are the ones that are being promoted by the power structure. None of this is by accident. And so here's why I didn't want you to go down the rabbit hole, kids.
How do you open it up like that and then don't point me towards?
I know you a little bit better than the. I know you a little bit better than the viewers, man. I just don't want us to go down the wrong hole and have that conversation get aired out. But he's exactly right, man. He is a tool of the power structure, and that's the message they want to promote. They want to promote a degrading. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to listen to the music right now because it's all trash. It's all trash, and I think Kendrick Lamar is one of those guys that is conscientious about it, and he's just trying to figure out a way. Like, man, how can we bring an end to this and get this thing back turned to the direction that it needs to go? Hip hop music used to always have a message in, always, and it was, it's always some cultural and societal value to it. Usually, a lot of times it was always, they were basically the street version of whoever the biggest names in breaking news were. They were telling you news from a street perspective. Drake is just all about, his music sounds like a party 24/7. It sounds like that's all he does. And that's all these young people want to do now. It's party, pop pills, drink, do all the drugs they can get their hands on, because this is the shit that's getting pumped into their ears, and they actually believe this is how people live. And the people that are putting this stuff out and are promoting people like Drake, they are the ones we need. I know we spending a lot of time dogging Drake, but those are the ones we need to. I mean, and that's a whole different show. But that's that's the problem I have, is the power structure, that the $1 billion people that are backing him. I'm just sick of the messages out there, and I know a lot of people feel the same way.
Like I say, can't argue with you. It's a lot of the reason why. Can't argue with you. I can't. Again, I can't fault Drake for it. If it wasn't Drake, it'd be somebody else. Somebody's gonna make that money. Somebody's gonna sign that check, and somebody's gonna make that. That low-hanging fruit version of what we thought hip hop was today. Right? That's all it is. It's just baser instinct, low-hanging fruit, easy to sell and make money off of.
Carterius Harris. Carterius Harris, there's 44 people in here right now. Come on, man. We need to do better than 8 likes, man. Hit the like button, man. Come on, y'all. Have a little bit more respect for what we're doing, man. Please stop for a second and hit the like button. That would be nice, man. Please do that. But I just, I was checking that out all evening yesterday, and it's pretty clear. I've seen the history of rap battles and diss tracks and all that kind of stuff goes way back to hell. If you're a hip hop historian like Kids and myself, it goes way back to
like KRS-One and beat KRS-One and
KRS-One and it was the Bronx versus Brooklyn.
And MC Shan and the Juice Crew. That's basically where that hip hop thing started from, right? Like that's it. There's been some really good iterations of hip hop beef. Let's be honest, over this last year, from a beef perspective, it's been a bunch of girls battling each other, and they're literally keeping the game up. I haven't heard any good rap music in a really long time. Like, it's been a minute. But again, one of these 4 Kendrick Lamar songs is really, really, really good in my opinion. Just some lyrical destruction. So I got it. Like, I don't know what else to call it. He just ate this man alive. But the other 3 are much more of a troll. He's just messing around. He realized a long time ago that Kendrick Lamar rapping versus Drake is just it's night and day. It's two different things, you know.
It's
But
it's the intention that's bugging me, man. You know, you said that if it's not Drake, it's going to be somebody else that's willing to accentuate and kind of accentuate that kind of lifestyle, the excess and the irresponsibilities of everything ain't a fucking party, and that's the problem. I think we are pointing the finger in the right spots, but we're not pointing enough fingers in the right spots. And so the people who sit there and put their big money behind this trash. I mean, it's absolute trash. And the people, everybody around you, so nobody is watching this show or listening to my voice. There's not a single person around you that has not been affected by this trash culture in one way or the other. You have been either directly or indirectly affected by it, some behavior around you, or somebody in your house has been affected by it. It's you've seen the ramifications of it somehow, some way. And I think we have focused our energy too much on the people that's actually putting out the work instead of the people that are putting money behind this shit. I'm absolutely sick of it. And I love the fact that Kendrick Lamar, that would happen to Drake over the weekend is exactly what should happen because he's like the epitome or like the poster child of what hip hop music is supposed to be. Like this dude is supposed to be like he calls himself one of the greatest of all time. That's some bullshit. But the fact that he's celebrated and almost like
who, Drake?
yeah, he's like and they almost idolatrize this guy.
But here's the thing, man. Like, and you got to look at it for what it's worth, and step out. Take a step back. If it depends what we're talking about. If by way of music, you judge music strictly by how many records have been sold by this artist, then baser, sex, money, murder wins every time. Doesn't matter if it's Drake.
We're talking about
like it doesn't matter.
Himself the greatest of all time. He's not.
Say what?
He's calling himself and allowing people to call him the greatest of all time. That's some bullshit.
But I'm asking you. I'm asking you a question. Like, if we're talking about record sales, he's definitely up there. There's a lot of people who are up there, right? If that's how you define music, record sales. That's not how I define music, and it never will be.
J2K, Laz is interested in what's your take on this?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of out of my universe, so to speak, but like Jay Grizz, that's my universe. The Roots, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Far Side. That's the kind of hip hop that I like. So
I love all Drake of those.
I honestly, I couldn't tell you if I ever heard a Drake song or a Taylor Swift song. I'm kind of not in that mainstream universe of artists. I was going to say that to you guys' point, talking just about hip hop, a long time ago in a different life, I used to run a music distribution company, and I had an artist on their DJ Rectangle where he would take unreleased tracks from Eminem and DMX and put them on a mixtape, like a party CD, and those would sell, and they sold like hotcakes. At the same time, I had artists like Black Alicious and the Murs, which are pretty underground West Coast 20 years ago. But, they were so soulful. They
Black
were thoughtful.
Alicious is amazing, bro.
Yeah, so that was the stuff that I was so happy to have on my distribution company. And even though the DJ Rectangles just sold like hotcakes every single time.
Don't worry, lad.
I've heard some Rectangle stuff too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have for sure. That's pretty crazy.
He got busted by the feds.
That doesn't turn into longevity in the rap game.
No, I had to show up in a parking lot at a gas station to give him a check and write it to his girlfriend.
Hey, don't worry. Hey, Laz, don't worry. We're gonna get into the roster in earnest. Trust me, man.
Yeah, sorry guys. Like no maniacs.
We're gonna do
you
all
guys
that.
are piling in, but hopefully you don't mind us sort of just chopping it up on some hip hop stuff because I had no idea that J2K had no idea that you were in doing some stuff.
Yeah. The music industry was something I did when I was younger. That's actually where the whole graphic design career came out of. So I did CD art, posters, flyers, magazines back in the day, and yeah.
When are we going to talk about jazz?
When we get another show. That's a whole thing.
Yep.
Right there.
Leave that alone. Sorry, Chris. Sorry, brother. But
Yeah,
it's,
I just think it's this is Nomad at Night. We do cover the Bears here, and we're going to get into the roster battle. Don't worry, lads. I promise you, man. We're gonna get all the way into it in earnest. And trust me when I tell you that we're gonna dig all the way into that. But I think Nomad at Night, we've always intended for this show to be, kind of it's we would cover it all. Kind of. We would do Bears, we would do other different topics, and this was always going to be that kind of off brand podcast that was going to touch a little bit of everything. And I thought, if you don't start doing that on a more regular basis, people are going to just get pigeonholed into the idea that all we talk about on Nomad at Night is the Chicago Bears, and that's just not true. We're going to talk about much more, many more different things on this show than just Chicago Bears. Right now, Chicago Bears is hot. That's what people want to talk about. We're about to get into that in a few minutes, but not before I say one more thing about this culture. I just think we are at a pivotal time, and I do believe change has occurred. I think pop culture is just late to it, and I think the fact that here's another thing, kids. I think the music industry, the music business has disappeared. I don't think it exists anymore. I think there's a handful of people you can probably count on two hands that actually have a music business career. When I say that, I mean can sign a record deal for, how it was back in the day. You sign up for 2 or 3 records, you get such and such. That's not there no more. That structure isn't there no more. People everybody's on Spotify, Apple Music, and they're streaming basically individual songs after individual song. And every now and again, you get artists that have put out an entire project. But there is no such thing. I think you make your own music business now, kids. I think if you want a message out there, I think you have to bring it to the people. And I don't think you worry about whether or not some big company wants to sign you to a contract. I think that's over with. I think that part is over with. And I think you are your own, basically, you're the master of your own fate right now when it comes to music. And I just think people ought to recognize that and not go for the money aspect of it and what's going to get you uber rich, because money is just money, man, at the end of the day.
all right. So I'm gonna make a prediction here without divulging too much, because I have the fix for the music industry in my mind, in my back pocket, and a little bit on this computer. I just don't have any money. So feel free to send me some serious super chats. Send in some super chats, y'all. I can fix the entire industry. And what I'm gonna say is the music industry will be fixed over the course of the next 10 years. You're going to see a complete shift. And I'm going to point to just a little bit of it without giving away the meat and potatoes. First thing being, if you know anything about Taylor Swift, I know like virtually nothing. She dates Travis Kelce. She also re-recorded all of her music. Why? Because then she can own the masters to her music. Problem is, if you're just a new artist, your masters aren't worth anything, right? But for bigger artists who own their masters, or who could go and re-record their art, their songs, there is a way for them to resell their art en masse, get it all tallied tallied to them directly, as opposed to going through major record labels. I have a brilliant idea, but I've literally been thinking about this all week, and it kind of popped into my head. I have a fix. Anyhow, send me all your money. Moral of the story, y'all. Moral of the story. Geez, I do though. I honestly have a fix. There is something out there that would make this all work, and it would just take a couple of bucks and somebody who's willing to an artist like Kendrick Lamar, like somebody like that, who's actually willing to record their art and generate independent money. Like Kendrick Lamar, or even like Tech Nine would be the perfect guy because he does all of his stuff independently, and it would work.
Well, this is my last take on it, and we can move on to some football. And I'm just going to tell you what my intentions are with bringing it up. It wasn't to really pile on what happened to Drake over the weekend. It wasn't really necessarily that. I'm a humanitarian at heart, and I'm very, very concerned about our culture. And I'm not talking about just the black culture. I'm talking about a society, the culture of a society. And I know that for a fact. I've seen this. All you have to do is look at the history of music. You don't have to be a particular fan of just one genre. You just look at the history of music. Pop culture has always dictated what it looks like in society. Think back to the 60s, mid 60s, early 60s to the late 70s. When people wore suits and ties and they dressed up and it was all about love music and the chivalry of love music. It was all about that, and it was reflected in society. People responded to that somehow or another into the 80s when the drug epidemic started hitting communities, and the music started to change, and it reflected what they were seeing out there in the streets. Drugs was taking hold of the streets, and it started being reflected in the music. The suffering, the pain, the struggle, all of that stuff started coming out of the music. And then when you look at it historically, there was every reason to start getting concerned about where this might go. If this is being popularized, then how bad can this actually get? Now we're just talking historically. Here we are here today, where everybody's talking about how many pills they pop, how much lean they drank, how many lines of something they snorted, all that shit, and the drink, and just excess of foolishness, man. The irresponsibility of it all has affected us as a society in a way that it's going to take an intervention, a divine one. And I believe it's happened already. I just think people are being late to it, and they're celebrating this bullshit a little too longer than they should. We need to get back to some values, man, and start being, regular things being more important than a fucking party and popping pills and being stupid out here. It's gotten way to the extreme. And I know that there needed to be something pivotal that happened. Some things needed to take place. And I believe this incident with Kendrick Lamar and the stuff that's going on with Diddy, I think it's a comeuppance of sorts as of late. And I think the industry and the people that have been backing these guys and some of the stuff that I hear about these guys, man, and that's a entirely different show we'll get into later. Trust me when I tell you that. I think it's a long time coming. I'll just say that and kind of end it there. But I'm so happy that this stuff is finally starting to hit its apex and hit a climax. It's time for some accountability about this bullshit they out here putting out here and screwing up the society, man. Our society is suffering, and it's based on the music people listen to each and every day, man. So I'll stand by that and argue that any day, anytime with anybody. But they want to talk about some football, so let's get into that.
So before we do, I just want to give a big shout out to the chat. Like, y'all have been super cool while we've been just chopping it up here on something that has virtually nothing to do with the Bears outside of maybe the Super Bowl shuffle in '85. Thank you. You guys were super cool about it. And to be honest, the comments in the chat were awesome. Richard Long, big respect, Richard Long. The Objective Truth with Eric Sullivan. Welcome in. Like, share, subscribe, Eric. Haven't seen you before, but some awesome banter in the chat. Smitty Q, Jay Grizz, even Don Burr, like immortal. Everybody's chopping it up on some hip hop and how this is all gone wrong. and I love it. Big respect to you guys out there. Just wanted to give you guys some love.
So, all right, we can return to this conversation a little bit later on. I'll tell you what, guys. If you got any questions or anything, if you got anything you want to further discuss about that topic we just talked about there, man, throw it in the chat. If I see it, if it's a question, I'll start. We'll try to get to it at the end of the show. And also, anything football related about these position groups that we're about to talk about. If you have a question I'll try to start as many as I can. We can get to them later on in the show. We'll try. But let's get into some conversation. So J2K, I'm gonna start you off with this conversation. When I sent you that DM and I said that we were going to talk about position battles and positions up for grabs and spots up for grabs in camp, who was the first person that came to your mind?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think I might start at either defensive end with Booker rotating with Walker, or I think I would start there. I don't want to go into the whole lineup and stuff, but everywhere else seems like people are kind of fitting in certain places. Maybe Odunze as far as how many touches he gets and who comes off the field, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say to take Keenan off the field or DJ Moore off of the field. I think rotation at edge.
What's the first thing that came to your minds, kid? Well, Brian's really saying Borum.
For me, it was DE as well. That's really where my head is. I just want that position fixed.
And if we're talking backups, that's probably a different list. So Borum probably is on his way out. Karan's probably taking that spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Borum's the other guy, right? He's the other one. And then it gets me thinking about Herbert. Right.
Look, how about this? Chris did us a good favor and grabbed the depth chart. Let's look at the offensive depth chart, Chris, if you have it. Let's just take a quick look at that. All right. So I'm gonna take down the comments for a little bit, take a look at this. And so first person on the list, and we've had a conversation about this, guys. Don't take this the wrong way, like we're trying to run Tyson Bagent out of town. Nobody's trying to do that. But there's a legitimate conversation that needs to be had about
agency alert.
Right. Sorry. There's a legitimate conversation that needs to be had about whether his spot is a spot that might be up for grabs. Is he in jeopardy of losing his roster spot here? And I think we should start there, kids, or J2K, whichever one of you guys want to discuss that. But I believe, I know he's a Bears draft pick, but I think he was the target of our former offensive coordinator. I think he was his pick. That's what I think. I don't have no way to prove that, but I think Bagent and them signing this guy and getting this UDFA, I don't know, man. I'll just shut up and see what you guys think about this whole thing.
All right, fine. I think Tyson Bagent sticks around. I think Austin Reed sticks around. I think Brett Ripken is here for 2 months. J2K, what do you think?
So, I think Nomad. I think you're right on this, because had they really felt good about Bagent, I'm not sure that they would have brought in a camp arm, including the fact they brought in Brett Rippon. So to me, this screams Waldron saying, I've got a guy who was in my camp a year ago who I want to bring in. He's intelligent. He's good for the QB room. But, if I'm looking at undrafted free agent, this Austin Reed kid, he's a steal. He's a great find. And these guys pick the team they want. They're free agents. So I'm sure Waldron went to Austin Reed and said, it's an open competition. You have a chance to possibly be the backup to Caleb Williams. And that's what got us Austin Reed, because he was a very good undrafted free agent quarterback.
So I think I'm going to give you my honest opinion about this, and I think Tyson Bagent is good enough to compete with Austin Reed. I think here's what I think is interesting about the whole thing. I think that the fact that both of them are coming in on an even playing scale, on an even playing sheet. Neither one of them, they both received the playbook at the same time, right? So nobody's got a leg up. And so the competition it's going to come down to who executes the scheme and the style of offense that they want to run better. And so it being Shane Waldron's first year, I'm sure he had a strong hand in selecting Austin Reed. And so something about Austin Reed's play style lends favor to what they want to do as an offense and what it should look like. And so something about Austin Reed is attractive to Shane Waldron. And so if it comes down to the coach, the actual offensive coordinator, and maybe the quarterback's coach who stays on the roster, depending on, let's just say they come out in camp and it's a pretty even battle. Kids, who do you think wins that spot on the roster? Who do you think say they come out even in a camp battle?
I just don't think that they have the luxury of they have the luxury of cutting one quarterback, and to me, it's the 27-year-old you're paying the most. It has a heck of a lot less to do with whether Tyson Bagent can beat Austin Reed out in a camp battle, and that's where my head is. I think Brett Ripken is really just in here to help them install the offense, get these guys up over that hump quickly. Maybe he's around for a couple of weeks into the season, but I don't see him lasting here very long. He's good to have in the room. I think you keep two developmental prospects. Whoever's the better developmental prospect is a guy that backs up your quarterback. Right now, only one of those two prospects actually has had snaps in the NFL. So I want to throw that out there as well. Reality is neither is Caleb Williams, and he'll be starting.
Yeah, I think Brett Ripken's really brought in to speed up the playbook through training camp. So he knows the playbook really well, and he can be an extra advisor to Bagent, Reed, and Williams. I don't think he makes it past training camp. I think he eventually gets cut, but I think they brought him in as just an extra mind in the QB room. I think Bagent does get the number 2 spot because, it would be pretty wild to have 2 rookie QBs suiting up game 1. But and this is no diss to Bagent. I just like Austin Reed's tape. I think it was really good. I liked Bagent. I almost kind of would go Reed if I was looking at the two of their tape from college comparatively. Bagent played a lot lower competition, so you got to adjust for that a little bit. But I do like Austin Reed. I love the pickup.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his tape. I like Bagent once I got a load of him. I had no idea who either one of these guys were until they were picked. And as soon as I saw Bagent's film, I loved his film. But I really like Austin Reed stuff. Probably a little bit better than Bagent. I ain't gonna lie. Bagent slung that thing all over the place. But I think I'm just one of those people that kind of can envision him doing the scheme. And he's kind of like what Brock Purdy was asked to do. He looks a lot Brock Purdy-ish when you watch him on film. And I just started picturing stuff that Waldron might want to do with this quarterback. And they're not going to ask him to be a world beater if he has to step in. He'll be in there to manage a game. And so it's more so that I just see him more. It wouldn't surprise me if Bagent was kept, but it would definitely not surprise me if Austin Reed ended up being the backup on his team. Matter of fact, I slightly give him the advantage. That's just my opinion on the whole thing. But let's move on down the roster a little bit. And so this is worth a conversation here, man, because there's been a bunch going on. The whole thing about Cincinnati inquiring about Khalil Herbert is not going anywhere. I keep seeing it every time I look on social media. I think there are conversations being had about Khalil Herbert. Whether or not they budge on it, I don't know, man. But what do you guys really think about Khalil Herbert in a trade with Cincinnati and what that might look like?
I've heard there's been some words about it out there in the winds outside of just me and you chopping it up this week. That's what I heard, but I don't know. I'm hoping that little rumor is somewhat true. No knock to Khalil or his contribution here in Chicago. I think he's an amazing running back. Just like everybody else, he does have shortcomings, just like I do. I would sit there and say that his pass protection. Whoa, somebody's you flying a plane, Nomad?
No, that's me. I'm
That's a
You
flying
flying a Cessna?
airfield.
You got a Cessna?
I'm
that's
surprised
a
you can hear
B-52
that.
about to light J2K's ass up.
Okay, I
Yeah,
was
it's
just
World
checking.
War II over here. The whole
World War
draft
II.
was like this. I had to hit mute every time an airplane came overhead.
Bombardier, bro, Bombardier. But yeah, and Khalil Herbert's pass pro does leave some room for improvement for sure. And that's the one place where I'll knock him. He definitely, in my opinion, can hold the load. But again, we've got two, I think, two high caliber running backs who can probably put up the type of numbers we need. We don't necessarily need Khalil on this team, and if trading him could result in solidifying the defensive end or edge rusher position, um, I'm listening. That's where my headspace is.
Yeah, I think with
JK?
Herbert, it has more to do for me. It has more to do with Roshan Johnson's progress,
Yeah,
and then even still, because if you get rid of Herbert, now Travis Homer is your third back, and we all know the NFL. You're going to see 3-4 running backs get snaps throughout the year at some point. So then that gets back to how well does Ian Homer, I believe is his name, the UDFA running back we picked up.
Ian Wheeler.
That's right. Ian Wheeler, how well he plays, and can he get a practice squad spot? Can he push Homer for that fourth position? All those things happen, then sure, if you can get some good trade value for Khalil Herbert, I would do that. At the same time, I'm thinking, what's the trade value? A fifth, a sixth? Maybe, it's not going to be much.
And this is why I say, in conjunction, in as a trade for another player, because in that case, yeah, you're not going to get a really high draft pick return for Khalil, but you can get lower in compensation that you might have to pay in a trade. Right. So if you're trading for Trey Hendrickson, for instance, maybe you're coughing up a 5th round pick and Khalil Herbert.
Right. And a package deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if we can improve the team in other ways and it doesn't hurt our overall running back room, I'm all for it. At the same time, even though Khalil Herbert is a little one-dimensional, I do think that he is a pretty good back for the one dimension he has.
So I think this, man. This is what I think about the running back room. I think we know now that Khalil Herbert isn't a starting running back, and I think he's a good backup, a really good backup. As a matter of fact, I think he's the dynamic that he brings to your team is one cut straight up and down. His lateral ability, his ability to juke, go left and right, make guys miss, that's a trait that you almost need as a running back in the NFL. If you don't have that trait, I don't see you being a starting caliber running back in this league. I just don't. I mean, there are some one cut downhill starting running backs in the league, but I don't think their teams do very well. You need to be dynamic, and I think as the offensive staff got together with the head coach and the general manager, and they probably spotted that. Like I've been saying for weeks and weeks, they planned on Tristan Ebner being that jitterbug guy, and he never worked out. And we kind of had guys in and out from practice squads here and there, and we just finally decided that bringing this new offensive coordinator in here, that we were going to need a guy that was kind of multifaceted coming out of the backfield, and that would take Khalil Herbert out of the starting lineup. And if they could, him going into going into his 4th year, kids.
Yeah, I think so. This is contract year.
Do I want to see him go? No. But I think if you can get something worth, get a good value for him, I think you need to know for sure this Ian Wheeler kid can be a good solid 3. We know Roshan can back up and probably play 2. I'm not so 100% sold on Roshan Johnson either, but I like him back there. You know, he's a good blocker. I mean, he's kind of like Khalil. He's a one cut downhill runner and doesn't offer a whole lot, a little bit more juke ability to his game, but not as much as you would want. But you know, Ian Wheeler, I would like to see, you know, what he brings to the table, and does he make Khalil Herbert an expendable piece though? So I'd be interested to see that. Anybody?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not so sure. It will be because of Ian Wheeler. You know what I mean? I'll just be real about that. I'm not sure if he's going to be the impetus of Khalil Herbert moving off or being traded away. But end of the day, if it is for that final piece, guys, yeah, you're going to have to pay him next year. You know, I'd do it in a heartbeat for Trey Hendricks and a 5th rounder next year. That's like, or as somebody who's the awesome human being who put this in the chat, there was one. It might have even been our guy Brian. Yeah, our guy Brian Hendricks holding it down. Trade Herbert and Borum to the Bengals. Their O-line sucks. I'm not so sure if I would be averted to that as an idea. That would reduce once more any picks that you might have to throw at the Bengals, upgrade the roll line, give them a running back, and we get that edge rusher that we really need to finish this build.
All right. So it's not a lot to talk about in the running back room. We feel good about what we have. If Khalil Herbert is somebody that's up for conversation for a trade, I'd like to see what they can get for him. You know, if they were going to trade him. I don't think, you know, unless somebody offers like anywhere above 5th, get up to a 4th or something like that for him, I don't see him getting traded. It's got to be something worth our while, because I think he's part of what they want to do. But they could surprise us all and say, you know what, let's get this. Let's see what we can get for him, and maybe we'll look at the free agent pool and see if there's something else out there for it. Who knows? But I don't think it's a whole lot to talk about there. So let's slide on down to.
Well, really quick, Nomad, I do want to just point out with Waldron, you look at the backs that he used in Seattle, and he had 2 types. He had pass catching back and a big bruiser back. Mm-hmm. And Khalil Herbert kind of is in that middle, doesn't totally fit either side. So I see why they got Swift, and I see Roshan Johnson being a favorite of Waldron, who, you know, Roshan can also catch, and he's a big back. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they do make a move on Khalil Herbert. At the same time, I do like having depth.
You know what I think is the bigger conversation, J2K? It's the fullback, whether or not we'll keep one. And because, you know, I was just looking at Shane Waldron 3 years ago, and you know, it's not that he doesn't come from a system. He came from what's his name out in LA? What's his name?
Sean McVay.
McVay kept the fullback, but his 3 years, I think he was there 4 years in Seattle. Never had one. Never had a fullback the whole time. It was always, you know, a bigger U back type tight end that if he needed that role kind of taken care of. I think he sees the offense as more dynamic without the fullback. And so apparently, you know, unless Flus convinces him that, you know, I think it's our priority to make sure we carry a fullback on this roster for these reasons, I don't see him being able to force his will on an offensive coordinator in that way. I think, to be smart, to be honest with you, I think if Flus did that, I think he'd be a little bit out of line. What do you guys think about that? Like, say if Shane Waldron wanted to run with a tight end heavy offense and didn't want to carry a fullback, if Flus were to force his hand there, how do you guys feel about that?
Well, if I was Shane Waldron, I'd come into his next defensive meeting and tell him where to put his guy too, right? Like, no, that's all right. Do we need does a fullback work in my scheme? In this situation, no, I generally don't use a fullback. So then why are we paying him? He's a cut body, unfortunately. If that's a determination that Shane Waldron comes to, I don't really think Flus is going to pull veto for a guy to sit on a bench and not get used all season. Just
Kid,
doesn't make it.
this guy is very, very Flus is extremely old school when it comes to the basics of the game. He sees, I know he sees a fullback, and that's where I think that's where he needs to, in my opinion. I don't ever tell a man what he needs to do. If it were me and I had to suggest anything to him, would just to stay over there in the defensive room and let these guys operate and give them whatever they want. They decide that we can do without a fullback and we can just go with an extra tight end. I think they ought to give it to him. You stay in your lane, you're a defensive guy, stay over there, do your thing. And but he is the head coach and he's got leverage. And so J2K, what do you think about that whole thing? Wait a minute. He's muted for some reason. He's probably got a plane rolling over his head.
My bad. I'm here. So I think if you look at Shane Waldron, he's not just from the McVay tree, he's also from the Shanahan tree. And they use use check almost on every play in that offense. So I think with the scheme that he's from, it's very malleable. So in Seattle, he did have to use the tight ends a little more in the backfield because they just didn't have a fullback and their offensive line got injured. So he had to adjust his scheme to, chip block some of the defensive linemen. I think that Blasingame, I think he's athletic enough to work in this scheme. Had he not been athletic enough, I don't think he would have been here last year or the year before with Getsy. Because Getsy does run the same scheme, obviously not very well, but Waldron runs it far better. Waldron's shown to adapt to his offense and the players. So I'm not so sure that Blasingame doesn't fit in Waldron's scheme, although Waldron hasn't schemed up fullbacks in his history. It just comes from the tree.
Hey, Emoto said put Javon Dexter in at fullback. He can run like the fridge. That's pretty funny. Hey, let's look at the rest of this thing. Let's get right to the what I know you guys would be excited to talk about, and that's Velus Jones and this receiving core. Dante Pettis, you got Tyler Scott there, and Simba Webster, and it's that's an interesting receiving core after the three our top three guys. You're talking about DJ, you're talking about Keenan Allen, you're talking about Odunze, and then after that, what's interesting, this is where when you hear me talking about the team is very top heavy and the depth concerns me. This is where it gets interesting to me because, like, for me, I know what everybody says about Velus Jones, and some of the stuff that people say about him is very true. I think, to be quite honest with you, I think we didn't see Velus Jones for why we brought him in here, and I don't think they had a proper vision of what they could do with Velus Jones when they got him. I think Luke Getsy kind of and this is, pardon the expression, but dropped the ball when it came to Velus Jones. I knew you liked that, kids. Velus Jones, I think he left a lot on the table in being able to scheme and implement a guy of his talents. They looked at him too much as a receiver instead of what you could do with him in his versatility that he can bring to the offense on the jet motions and the different things that you can do with a player like Velus. I think he lacked creativity. And at the end of the day, I think it costs not Velus Jones, but the totality of lacking creativity and the ability to be able to function on the fly and adjust your game plan to what the defense is giving you, not using your talent that you have to exploit the teams, cost you your job. And so we have a more creative guy, and I see Velus Jones. You got to remember this too before everybody wants to run him out of town. You got to remember this is a guy that Ryan Post drafted, and so it's in his best interest to see this to whatever the ends might be. If it ends up being that Velus Jones just can't make it on this team, then they'll cut him. But if they use him and apply him in different ways, if Shane Waldron decides that this guy gives us much more value coming out of the backfield and on jet motions and things like that, and we won't use him primarily as a receiver, I think personally you can get a hell of a lot more out of Velus Jones that way. But I'll let you guys take it from there.
Oh, I was waiting for the violins to stop playing. Sorry about that. In any event, I think Velus Jones has a lot to prove to himself. I think that's the best way for me to put it. According to his own teammates, he is a monster on the field. They believe in him. So there's no reason why the rest of us shouldn't. So Velus, man, go out there and carve a niche for yourself, bro. Carve a niche, cut a path, do what you have to do. Just there's so much more competition on this team right now. It's going to be tough, at every aspect. If Simba Webster is still on this squad, or if he is listed here, just let me take a peek.
He's there.
There he is, Simba Webster and Dante Pettis. Both of those guys are going to, give you a run for your money when it comes to special teams value and things that you can bring to the table. So really, we're talking about jet sweeps and things of that nature, and stretching the field. You have to show your value in those arenas because, neither one of those guys are slouches in as far as that special teams value is concerned. And let's not forget Tyler Scott either. He can do all of those things too. So you got along. This receiving core, this receiver room this year, very tough to get into, and I don't know. I don't know if Colin Johnson continues for very long. Although look at that, it's 6'6". Like he might be bringing something a little bit different to the table, and they may like that.
Yeah.
As far as Velus is concerned, I just don't. I don't know, man. I worry about. I just worry about the balls on the ground, and as long as he doesn't do that, I think he has all the other skills required. Question is, who breaks into this room?
What say you, J2K?
So I think you guys are right on as far as Velus Jones. My biggest question is how much time do you spend designing an offense around a 4th, 5th, 6th wide receiver on your roster? So as much as I think that you're right, get a creative offensive coordinator in there, take advantage of Velus Jones' strengths. I'm just not sure how much of the playbook you can dedicate time to. And the guy who I'm actually really excited about is Colin Johnson. I thought he played pretty well at the end of last year when he came in. And you look at that 6'6" frame, and I thought he had good speed, pretty fluid hips. I think there's something there that could develop. Now, there's also Pettis. Webster, I think he might be getting a little long in the tooth, but he could get back into the roster. I think he's been practice squad for the most of his career with the Bears. Pettis, I think they like Pettis. They brought him back, and he's a good kick returner, punt returner. He solves a lot of issues if you were to move on for Velus and have Pettis as your 5th, 6th wide receiver. And I'm really hoping that Tyler Scott can improve on what he did from last year. I'm a little more optimistic on Scott than I am Velus Jones, but I do see similar issues with both those wide receivers being body catching wide receivers, which is something I am not a fan of.
Yeah, so I think here's what I think, man. I think number one, I think Dante Pettis is extremely underrated as a receiver. I think once Caleb sees how well he runs routes and how much separation he gets on his routes, Dante Pettis is more dangerous than people realize he is, man. This guy, they didn't bring him back for crap. You know, they know this dude can wiggle. He's got a lot of shape to his game and can get separation on routes. He knows how to run the routes. You know, the route tree, it won't be new to him. He knows exactly the tree it's going to be. You know, the route tree is kind of the same. It's just about getting in tune with the quarterback throwing the routes. It's I think Dante Pettis, I think is a really good pickup, and I love him being there. But as far as Valus and Tyler Scott go, Tyler Scott, you know, I forgive Tyler Scott for whatever shortcomings he had as a rookie. You know, going through what he's going through. I will point out what I pointed out the other day about Tyler Scott and some of his drops. Justin, a lot of his balls, you know, were short area stuff, and Justin threw a ball with a lot of velocity on it, and you know, it's hard to catch when you're not used to that. Like I remember watching him at Cincinnati. Desmond Ritter threw mostly touch balls, you know, so it wasn't a hard ball to catch. And, you know, he just didn't throw with a lot of velocity on it, as opposed to somebody like Justin Fields, who zinged up pretty much everything he threw. And so I understand what Tyler Scott was going through, learning the offense, the route tree, and, you know, the different concepts at the line of scrimmage, the hot routes, and all the stuff that comes with being a rookie. I forgive any rookie for having a rough season. So I'm not out on Tyler Scott. I believe he'll be able to bring something to the table in year two, you know, but the spotlight will be on him. I don't think he's getting cut by any stretch of the imagination. They drafted him and they want to see this through like anybody else that they drafted. And that includes Valus Jones. But I do think Valus Jones has much more to prove than Tyler Scott. And it's going to come down to how they envision what each one of those two guys' roles is going to be. But it's going to be interesting in camp. I do like that guy ODU. I don't know exactly. I think that guy's from Bowling Green. Bowling Green, am I right? J2K.
Yeah, yeah,
He's interesting, but he's a possession receiver. He's not a
right.
burner or anything like that. He's a possession guy. If you kept a guy like this, Colin Johnson wouldn't be there. He'd probably be your backup X or Z. You know what I mean? He's not. I wouldn't call him a dynamic receiver. I would call him a possession receiver. You think that's about accurate, J2K?
Yeah, I like the idea of putting that guy in as a big slot wide receiver, crossing routes, getting open against linebackers, finding the zone, settling in the zone, and he's got some decent movement to him once the ball's in his hand, even though he's not a speed threat.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's about what I think of the receiving course. It's going to be interesting. I think there's it might be a player missing from this roster. Maybe another veteran they can find somehow. I don't know. Maybe they want to get these guys in camp and see what the dynamics of the scheme bring to the table and what these guys that they have look like before they make any decisions on whether or not somebody stays or goes. But it's quite possible somewhere during the camp they could bring on another guy, even make a trade for somebody. Who knows, man? But it should be interesting moving forward. But how about we go through? I don't think the tight end room. We need to really talk about that. Do you? You guys?
Yeah,
I think
one thing, Carlson being kept. I think that they like Carlson, and maybe that's why they didn't go after a tight end in or additional third tight end in free agency. And Everett, I still think that guy's got some pretty good pass catching left in him. And I think Cole Kmet is going to take another step forward this year. I think he is still growing as a tight end. He's almost, he's like one of our oldest veterans out of most of our players outside of Blasingame and Keenan Allen. So now he's someone I think people are looking up to as far as a long-term bear. And I do have a lot of high expectations for what Cole Kmet can do in this offense.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about the tight end. I like the way it looks. Think they got some nice pieces. You know,
I have a feeling Mercedes Lewis finds his way onto this roster.
Yeah,
not just me.
I would love to see that myself. I just love what he brought to the table. It's like having an extra offensive lineman in it. And as much as Waldron likes to get in 11, 12 personnel, you know, a guy like Mercedes Lewis is absolutely this got to be like a gold bar, just have it in your pocket all the time. And so, if there's a way they can get him back in this thing, but you never know, man. He could be following his coach wherever he goes. He could be following Getty or wherever the hell they're doing over at the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. Who knows, man? But I'd like to see him here with this offense. But good luck to seeing that happen. Let's get down to the offensive line, man. And here's where it gets interesting. Ja'Tyre Carter, man. There's a lot of people been waiting to see if this guy's going to get some tick heads. And we brought in what? Am I right or wrong, J2K, when I say we brought in at least three free agent interior linemen, whether it be center or guard? Did we bring in like three new guys?
Yeah, I think center, a guard, and a tackle who I think projects to guard.
So Ja'Tyre Carter. Now let's have this conversation. I think when I was thinking about this, when you saw the thumbnail, you saw Ja'Tyre Carter there. Why I put him on there, this is what I was thinking. So I'm extremely high on this UDFA they brought in Stutz and the right guard from Auburn. And if this guy comes in here and rookie minicamp and really tacks on pretty quick and kind of grabs the system fast and gets off to a flying start, Ja'Tyre Carter's out there. That's his competition. Kids, do you think there's a world where Ja'Tyre Carter gets bumped off this roster to keep Stutz here?
No.
You don't think so, huh?
That's not who I think would wind up out of here. That's just me. And the reason being is that Carter's actually had reps. He's seen the field. He's had a couple of snaps. So you want to try and nurture that over time. Right underneath him is Jerome Carvin. I'd be looking much more squarely at a Jerome Carvin, or at Groundhog's Day, Bill Murray. That's where I would be thinking. That's what I would be thinking. I wouldn't be getting rid of the guy who's actually got snaps at the position.
Man, listen, those two guys you just mentioned. I see those guys as real camp bodies. I'm not downplaying anybody, but when you give a guy $200,000 as a signing bonus to come and work out in your camp and try out, that means you have intention with this guy. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think they do. I could see him replacing any one of those guys, and I'll be honest with you, and I hate to say this, but including Ja'Tyre Carter.
Richard Long, I don't think Ja'Tyre Carter has played himself out of a job. I think them signing the guys that they have has upped the ante on Ja'Tyre Carter. Will he step up and answer the bell? I think Ja'Tyre Carter is a hidden gem on our team. To be quite frank with you, I've thought that since the moment we got this kid. I don't think he's out of a job, but I think it's worth a conversation, because you don't hear the coaches talking a whole lot about Ja'Tyre Carter. So nobody really knows what it looks like and how Ja'Tyre Carter is coming along, other than you see him sprinkled out in games. I think he performed pretty decent when he got opportunities to get snaps. You don't really worry about him when they put him out there. You don't see that as oh shit, they got Ja'Tyre Carter on the field. You don't feel that way when they throw him out there. You feel like he's competent, right? But them bringing on these interior guys and signing that's a pricey UDFA they just signed. With that going on, who are they thinking about? Are they thinking about Ja'Tyre Carter, or are they thinking about insurance for Tevin Jenkins? I think it's all worth the conversation.
Yeah, I think I really like Carter. I think he's got NFL qualities, starting qualities to him. His issue, I think, he just got beat with technique from veteran players who they just knew how to get past him with their moves, and he just got caught a couple times. But he's shown good power, good movement skills, and they've kept him on the roster for 3 years, and he was a 6th round draft pick, I believe.
Never saw practice squad once, J2K.
Yeah.
Was that
You want to
So-
know? Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was going to keep going. I think the issue is that you're looking at. I think Ryan Bates is the starting center, and then Coleman Shelton is the backup center. I don't see Coleman Shelton in any world playing guard. He just didn't show that he could handle any kind of a bull rush. He's 285. So I think the center position there is pretty secure, and there's question marks as far as the fourth guard in this offense. And while Bates can move to guard, I think he's the starting center. So you got Carter, and then Stutz is the guy that they gave some money to, and they're hoping that out of this group, someone, shakes out to be that fourth offensive guard as a backup. And we've got tons of question marks as far as Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins, being long-term solutions or having a full year, full healthy year.
I believe that they've made some particular moves in the offseason, and it lends to, it's always about competition with coaches, and they just want to make the camp competitive. I think the fact that Jatiri Carter never saw the practice squad, not once since he's been here in the going on his third year now, says a lot about what they think this guy's potential can be. And so I don't think they're out on Jatiri Carter by any means, but them bringing in Stutz and signing him, giving him that money, says to me there's somebody on that roster that they're not certain about. Whether it's Jatiri Carter, the depth behind Tevin Jenkins, whatever it is, they feel like this guy's going to provide not only some competition, but some depth and maybe even push someone. And so what do you guys think about Tevin Jenkins? And we've talked about this, Skid. You don't even have to answer this. We've already done it. I don't know if I've asked J2K. What do you think about the fact that they haven't extended to this point Tevin Jenkins and his inability to be healthy versus what they just gave Stutz to come in here in this camp?
Well, yeah, he's a huge question mark as far as health. His game is, top 5 offensive guard in the NFL, but if he's injured or he's injury prone, what do you do with it? So I think they're going to give it a year and see how he responds. I hate to say this. My gut is telling me that we do move on to Tevin Jenkins just because the risk of injury and long-term career to pay a guy top 5 offensive guard money, it's too high of a risk.
I think some people in the chat agree with you, man. I think there's something in me, man, some kind of wild instinctual thing that I got going on that says they need some insurance for Tevin Jenkins.
Well, there's the other guy that you have to sort of think that the Cincinnati Bengals might be interested in talking about with the Chicago Bears.
Why the Bengals?
Because they've got offensive line issues. That's a well-known fact. They could definitely and let's be honest, any offensive line in the NFL could do well with Tevin Jenkins. Period. Once more, as long as he's on the field and not, nursing an injury. But I think that would be an interesting conversation to be had in and around now before you have to really extend a guy. So, oh man, Ryan Poles, you slick son of a, don't be mad if he's like eerily ushered out in the night for a defensive end and his twin brother replaces him. So, take it for what it's worth, because Stutz kind of has very similar measurables to Tevin, and just looks like a mean dude. So I can't wait to see him and how well he measures up against the rest of the competition. We'll see.
Chris, are you back?
Yes.
All right. If you don't mind, man, let's flip it on over to the defense right quick, man. because I don't think we need to talk about tackle too much. And I'm rushing a little bit because we spent a lot of time BSing at the first part. But
Yeah,
here's
talking about that rap crap.
and people enjoyed that rap crap, by the way. I didn't know how it was gonna come across, but people got into the conversation, man. But hey, look, we getting right on into it, J2K, right what you came here to talk about that. How about this, man? Before I get to running my mouth, J2K, what do you think about this depth at defensive end, and how do you see this shaking out in your eyes?
Oh, it's going to be fun because I think we've got two quality starters in Sweat and Walker. I think you want a little more pass rush from Walker's side, but if you look at the stats and how much better Walker played when Sweat got here, I think that's still a decent to possibly good edge in Walker. I think Booker, man, that's going to be fun. I really think that this year is a little different as far as what we're looking at edge because we brought in Chop Robinson, Latu, and Dallas Turner, and with Booker, those guys seemed like 3-4 outside linebacker edge rush outside linebackers to me, and I think with Eric Washington, we're going to see a little bit of a mix up as far as how we rush the passer on obvious passing down. So this is a lot of fun. I don't have too much hope for Dominique Robinson or Khalid Kareem, Daniel Hardy. I didn't even know you. Jacob Martin. Those guys just seem kind of depth. We could go a lot of different directions. I would love if we found a way to pick up a fourth edge guy from a cut from another team. Generally, edges don't get cut that can make an impact on other teams. We saw Gibson get cut because he wasn't a scheme fit with us, and he went to the Titans. Didn't have a great year, but it does happen. We might be able to find someone out of the cut list of other teams come the 53-man roster cuts. But man, I'm so excited to see what Booker can offer as a pure pass rush defensive end.
Let me ask you a direct question.
Mm-hmm.
Does Dominique Robinson make the cut?
That's a really good question. I think it's all about how he shows up in camp because he does have much more of an uphill battle to get playing time. And this is kind of a pivotal point in his career where he either says, I'm all in 100% on being being on an NFL roster, or does he take a confidence hit and say, maybe I'm not the guy. Maybe I can't do this at a high enough level as I thought. I'm very curious how he responds to this this situation.
What say you about this bunch here?
Yeah, not a lot, man. I don't see many of them making the cut at all. I think that I think this position is gonna get sliced up sideways by the time we get to September. End of the day, Dominique Robinson. Only reason Dom Rob makes the team is dollars and cents because he was a draft pick of the Chicago Bears, which also puts your guy Jacob Martin in a little bit of a bind. I know you like Jacob Martin's possibilities, but him and Khalid Kareem are just two guys that you have to pay given how long they've been around. You don't really have to pay Dominique Robinson. You can live with that. He's your backup on a cheap dime. And even then, all of that to say, there's so much room here, I think, in that room for one more solid veteran. That's all I'm hoping for. One more piece.
Well, let me ask you the direct question I just asked J2K. Does Dom Rob make this cut?
Nope.
You don't think so?
Again, the only reason he might is because there's too much financials put on the other side. But I don't think he does.
All right. Here's my take on it. I think he's going to be given all kinds of opportunity. Why is because he was one of our draft picks, and he's what was he second in rotation last year? Last 2 years in, he was a starter. Ended up being second in rotation last year, and right about now, most people think he's fighting for a spot on the roster. I would tend to agree with that on the surface. Beneath the surface, you gotta factor in the variables, and those are what does Eric Washington think of Dominique Robinson? What does Eric Washington have in mind with how to apply Dominique Robinson? Does he see Dominique Robinson the same way that Flus saw him? Does he play in a same role or same uh, uh, style of defensive line that Flus played him in? Will there be a variation in which they see Dominique Robinson's role on this defense? Those are the questions I want to know. And so when I start talking to Alex Shapiro, and when you see Alex Shapiro appear on a thumbnail, and I'm asking Alex to come in or Herb, whoever, to come and empty their notebook, I'm going to ask them particular questions. And early in camps, like mini camps and voluntary and mandatory camps, I'm going to be wondering how they're positioning this guy, how they're using this guy, what kind of stances are they using? Or is he standing up more than he's got his hand in the dirt? Are they dropping him back in zones? This type of shit that people need to know when evaluating what you think they envision this guy being. And so I want to give you a straight answer. I want to give both of you guys a straight answer about Dominique Robinson, but I am waiting, and I can't wait to see, because I know how talented Dominique Robinson is if you apply him in the right way. Now, if they choose to be multiple in the way they use him and don't force him to have his hand in the dirt every play, and they choose to let him stand up and just really attack in a way that his athleticism may help him in that way. Who knows? I'm just interested to see what happens when Eric Washington gets his hands on him. And so I'm not ready to commit about Dominique Robinson, but I think it's worth the conversation. If I had to lean one way or the other, I would say because there's in the market for a veteran pass rusher, it's a chance that he could get bumped at some point, but there are other guys that they can take off the board in order to give that veteran pass rusher a place. And so I would say that, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think he's safe for now, but I think he can play himself out of a job during camp.
So I'm going to give you a direct question. Dominique Robinson over Jacob Martin, Khalid Kareem, and Daniel Hardy?
Say it again?
Yeah. Dominique Robinson over Jacob Martin, Khalid Kareem, and Daniel Hardy.
Definitely
or
over.
No.
Definitely over Hardy, Kareem, but Jacob Martin, I think, can produce quicker and faster than Dominique Robinson.
Okay.
He's more productive than Dominique Robinson. I don't think anybody would argue that. Just look at the film, man. Dominique Robinson, he hasn't put it together enough to be anywhere near as productive as Jacob Martin. Now, he did make improvements, especially at capturing that edge after Montez Sweat got there. I don't know what it was about Montez Sweat coming aboard, but you start to see a few more flashes out of Dominique Robinson when you didn't even know he was there most games, So I'm just interested to see what
It's funny. I didn't see it even then with Dom Rob. Like I didn't. I saw it with everybody else on the line though. Like after Tez showed up, I saw it from Yannick Ngakoue. I can say that. I saw it from everybody else. Yannick got hurt. Didn't see it quite as frequently because he got hurt. Dom was there. Dom took those snaps. He did not eat, man. So I just don't see it, man.
I also, and somebody who just Richard Long is saying it, this is another factor you got to throw into it. The UDFAs they just onboarded. Jamry Chroma is going to be hard to cut off this roster. That's how talented I think this kid can be. It's going to be hard to if it comes down to 53, and let's just say Dominique Robinson made it that far. and it's a choice between Chroma and Dominique Robinson. I can imagine a universe that it's difficult for them to cut Chroma, and
Yeah,
not
I
so
agree.
difficult for them to let Robinson go. You know, it's going to be interesting, man. I think if it came down to it, what do you think they would do, J2K?
I really like Chroma. I do. I think my only question is really just which position is he a three tech? Is he a left defensive end or a containment defensive end? I don't see the pass rush side of it, the upside. Like Robinson is very talented and he is a very good bender and he can get off the ball pretty quickly. There's just a lot of technique issues that he runs into that offensive tackles just completely stonewall him in what he's trying to do with his hands. And if Chroma can come in and show that he's got as much upside on this offensive line as Robinson, and not only that, but just versatility. You look at Walker and how valuable he is to be able to move inside. You look at Dexter going to edge. That value of a 53-man roster suiting up 53 guys on game day is just immense. And with Domron not being able to be versatile versus Chroma being able to play inside and outside, that's going to be a heated camp battle for sure.
Yeah, it's
You said it.
I think the UDFA that UDFA is probably going to have a lot more to say in this training camp than people think. I know people just write UDFAs off and say they're camp bodies. They really stand no chance of making the team. I don't know. It's always UDFAs every single year that surprise everybody.
Well, yeah,
And
Jack Sanborn and Bajent, both of
exactly,
them. Well, I mean,
exactly.
you got guys. If you think that UDFA's don't matter, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, man. Because we're gonna slide down to the next group, which is the tackles. And I don't think there's a lot to talk about here. I think Byron Coward's going to be a backup three tech. Um, Demarcus Walker is going to be. I think he's like the swing guard. Tackle slash edge rusher. I think he's the guy that they know they can put him inside and out anywhere. Kind of line him up in combination with certain players. He played well again next to Billings in a few games. Man, I thought they worked well together, and I know they can see that on film. And so, I don't think we need to talk about much there. Coward is better than you guys think. Byron Coward, if you haven't took the time to go and watch, because I hear nobody talking about this cat, and
And where did he come from?
New England.
When did they sign him?
They signed him a couple months ago.
Okay.
And so nobody talks about this guy, but you don't make it. I think he's played pretty much his entire career in New England. And so what I'm telling you guys is, you talking about a productive role player at on your defensive front. You just got that in the replacement of Justin Jones. And so Byron Coward, I don't know if somebody needs to hear this out there, is a nice piece. Nice depth piece when you just lost Justin Jones. And so you're not gonna have to ask him to be the starter that Justin Jones was. You're just asking him to come in and spell who's ever playing at three, whether it be Javon or Zach Pickens or whoever it is. I think he's one of those pieces. If I were you guys, when it comes to training camp and preseason, that's the name I would. One of the defensive tackles that I would circle, and it's Byron Coward. Man, he was hella productive in New England. I don't know if anybody knew that, but what say you, J2K?
Yeah, I do like Howard. He was actually here last year. We did sign him last year. He didn't play a ton, and but I do like. What's that?
You sure it was him? I've never seen him anywhere but New England.
Yeah, he was on. They signed him last year.
I think he was practice squad last year, if I remember correctly, and I think he may have suited up but didn't play much.
Must have had some kind of injury or something.
Yeah, so he was a little bit quiet, but he was a good signing when we made it. He's a good depth guy. I can see that. Overall, as far as D tackle, I'm expecting a big year out of Dexter and some huge growth out of Zach Pickens. I think both guys have the potential to be very, very good.
What say you, kids?
Man, what I say is apparently the Kendrick Lamar just dropped another diss track on Drake in the last like 5-10 minutes. I had to just sort of throw that in there.
Sure it wasn't Drake drop one? Because I heard Drake drop one.
It may have gone the other direction. I'm not sure who did it, but Kendrick's track is The Heart. Jay Grizz, who did the track? Jay Grizz, straighten me out, man. You threw me off the topic at hand. So you might as well do me a favor. In any event, yeah, seems there's another diss track out there. So so Drake dropped another diss track at Kendrick titled "The Heart 6." Kendrick Lamar's songs. He's got a bunch of songs called "The Heart." So this is going back in the other direction. Crazy.
So we'll hold that.
And also, Byron Carrot was signed March 18th of this year by the Bears. He was
of 2024.
Yes, he was with the
Dolphins. So he wasn't on the
last
squad
year.
last year.
Right.
All right.
Well, yeah. Just what do you think about the D tackle group, and who's the odd man out there?
If we're looking at the group as a whole, I'm gonna start with Michael Doomfer. What do you guys? I don't know anything about him. What do you guys know about Michael Doomfer?
He's not gonna make it.
Yeah,
he won't make it. I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot to talk about. What we were talking about is questionable. I don't know if anybody's roster spot is questionable here. Here's the next layer of the conversation I wanted to get to, and people are going to get mad about this, but you have to look at it. Look at this in the context of how I'm seeing this. There are we have a new linebacker that we drafted, and that his name is Noah Sewell. His name is Noah Sewell. How he gets applied, how they want to apply him, next to how much playing time that Jack Sanborn gets.
Yeah, you're wrong. Keep going.
What'd you say now?
Don't do this.
What do you mean don't do
it? You keep going.
No, all I'm saying is, are we heavy in the linebacker room or no?
We have viable depth here.
I really like our depth. Jack Sanborn and Noah Sewell as two backups in a 4-3 but heavy nickel based defense. I love it.
And Baskerville ain't the worst guy on the squad either, right? Like I like Baskerville too.
Yeah, he's got good movement.
Soon they're gonna have to start making some decisions about, the draft capital they spent to get, Noah Sewell, and when are they gonna find time to play this cat? You got Jack Sanborn there, and he's great. Jack Sanborn's flat out beast. And when sometimes I think we all get so caught up in how much we like our players that we can't really see the forest through the trees. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's trade value for somebody like at the very end of the season. I could imagine somebody getting light at the linebacker spot and making a trade offer for Jack Sanborn, and them being willing to pick up a phone call, whether they traded him or not, being willing to discuss the trade because they've got Noah Sewell behind him. Same thing with Khalil Herbert after they drafted Roshan Johnson. Now I don't want to see Jack Sanborn gone. But you have to think in reality, if somebody's calling about Jack Sanborn and they know they have Noah Sewell to back them up, they're going to pick up that phone. Whether or not they do it and pull the trigger on it is a whole nother conversation. And so is his spot in jeopardy? Hell no. Hell no. But eventually they're going to have to find some room for Noah Sewell to play. And whether that happens this year, next year, whenever, that's going to have to be addressed because they think a lot of Noah Sewell. And we love Jack Sanborn. So I'm just putting it out there.
Yes, you are. I don't see I don't see anything happening to either one of these guys. I think this particular room is the heart and soul of this team. I expect there to be a little bit of shuffle next season when they actually have to re-sign Sanborn. That's That's really it. Maybe next season they might think about, trading him off. Like, my real thoughts is if he can continue to perform the way he's been performing, um, I could see another team coming to call with a really interesting offer. I think Jack Sanborn is, as somebody in the chat said, Johnny on the spot. Richard Long, he is. He's on the ball. He's there. If there's a tackle to be had, there's no questions as to who's going to show up. It's TJ Edwards and good old Sanborn. It's about that simple. So I wouldn't be looking to move him anywhere, especially while you have him on the cheap. But when it comes time to paying him next year, there might be a little bit more noise about making some more room for No Soul.
It's a great problem to have, J2K. It's a great problem to have is too much depth at a position, especially at linebacker. It's an unheralded position in football. I don't think they get enough love, man. The job that they have to do is probably the most rugged in football. You know what I mean? And I'm not, trust me when I tell you, I have nothing but respect for Jack Sanborn and the way he plays this damn game. I'm a purist at the heart when it comes to football. And if you are a purist, if you call yourself a purist at the heart and you don't have respect for fucking Jack Sanborn, then I'm going to question your purity. Jack Sanborn is a dog. The thing is, he's going to become valuable sooner or later, J2K. And some other team is going to say, you know what? We think he's worth this much. We have a guy backing him up. That's where I'm going with the conversation, J2K. That's all it is.
Yep. Yeah, and also keep in mind, Tremaine Edmonds, now he on his contract, he's got 3 years left, but that third year is basically a very cuttable year of his contract. So he's really on a 2-year guarantee, and we may be looking either at Noah Sewell to fill in middle linebacker, or if we extend Sanborn and keep that youth movement going in 2 years. Now, I wouldn't use that as any way to make a decision right now as far as playing time and trading guys and all that, but we will see a rotation, I believe, at middle linebacker in 3 years. So you got to plan for it.
Keep in mind, Tremaine's only 26 too.
That's it.
He is only 26. He's also making $70+ million, right? Like, he's making an exorbitant amount versus
that was my rationale for drafting a certain linebacker.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Chris, let me ask you a question. So Jack Sanborn came in as a UDFA, right? Am I correct? Or did they get him late 7th or something?
No, he was undrafted.
Okay, so Jack Sanborn has gone from UDFA to how high of a value. I could see Jack Sanborn's play being warranted. I think you can ask up to a 3rd round pick for Jack Sanborn at this point. Would you agree?
I think you need to start and play a little more just to guarantee that he's got the skill set.
Yeah, because I think he's a viable starter on most teams that run that defense. But I know you get a 3rd rounder for him. We talked about it this year. The linebacker position is kind of like the running backs. It's almost kind of devalued. So I don't know if you get a 3rd for him.
I don't know.
And this is also, this again also has to beg the question: do we really want to have that kind of, that amount of cap tied into Tremaine Edmonds? It has to be asked. Moving forward, is that something Ryan Poles wants to continue with down the road?
I asked that question pre-draft when I was talking about a certain linebacker from North Carolina State.
Yeah, well, I mean, they tied into him, man. I think that's not even part of the conversation. We're talking about spots on the roster and possibilities here. And I'm not saying any of this is going to happen. No, I don't think there's any chance. Nobody that I've heard of is talking about offering anything for Jack Sanborn, but I know it's going to have to get addressed at some point or another. Noah Sewell is going to need to see that field just as well as Jack Sanborn's going to need to see the field. And, something's going to have to give sooner or later. I don't know when. Maybe it's not this year, but the following year it could be. But sooner or later, something's given there, man. I don't know exactly how it's going to look, but it's going to be interesting to talk about. All right, let's slide to the secondary. Here's where it gets interesting because I think I heard Sean interview and I caught the butt end of a conversation between he and Herb Howard, and Herb was talking about he goes into the locker room every day and he goes right to what's his name, Jalen Johnson, not Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, and I guess what's the other cat's name? What's his name? Black
Larry
stuff.
Stevenson. Oh,
No,
Josh Blackwell.
Blackwell. I don't know why do I see his name up here?
Yeah, it's at the very bottom.
Okay. So so he goes inside there and I guess they got a locker next to each other. And he goes in there and he talks to him. And I'm overhearing him having this conversation. And he tells a story about how they ain't having it. Like they're not giving up their roster spots to nobody. And so here's why I think Reddy Stewart became a pick for the Chicago Bears. I do think they love Josh Blackwell. I think Josh Blackwell was injured way too much last year. He hardly saw the field, and they could not count on Josh Blackwell. Do they think there's any chance that Josh Blackwell could be beat? Do you guys think there's a chance that Josh Blackwell could be beaten out by this guy, Reddy Stewart, we just brought in as a UDFA?
I'm not so sure it's going to be Josh Blackwell specifically. Same token, I think the guy who gets beat out is Greg Stroman Jr.
Okay. I think Stroman played better than both of them last year.
Not based on play, bro. Based on
he looked good. He looked better than sometimes. I would say probably neck and neck because Jalen Jones played mostly boundary corner. When Stroman came in, he played slot corner. So there's a difference between the two positions. But as far as effectiveness, I'd say they were neck and neck. But Stroman was better than Blackwell because Blackwell didn't play that much.
I honestly like each and every one of these guys for different reasons. The only reason why I throw Stroman out there is, again, just contract. Everybody else is more or less on a rookie case scenario that they should be able to afford. Stroman's in his 5th year. They're going to be paying Stroman in some capacity. It's either you pay him to continue or you pay much less for the undrafted free agent being Reddy Stewart if he's caliber to take on the role. From what I've seen, I think he's pretty solid.
Scottish Bear saying, Nomad, I think they can keep both. I think they can go with an extra corner, one less safety. You know what? Let's jump right into that conversation because that leads me right to a guy that I have circled and we'll be watching very intently, and that's Elijah Hicks with some of the moves that we made. And so, I think go ahead, kids.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, man. I'm just looking at how many safeties we have on this roster. There's a lot more than I really accounted for.
Yeah. What say you about Elijah Hicks, J2K?
I liked him coming out of Cal. Watching him in the Bears, I think he's actually played better than I thought he would because he's a little undersized. He doesn't have a ton of speed. He does play smart, but I didn't see a lot of playmaking skills or getting to the ball early or things that would keep him on the roster for long. I think he is a good special teamers. I think there is some stuff to like as a third safety, but in my eyes, that third safety position is wide open.
Yeah, I think it's an uphill battle for Elijah Hicks, man, because they brought some nice pieces in, man, and I like some of the guys they have. If I like to see Elijah Hicks, I think he's gotten better every year. I could say that. His first year, it looked terrible, man, because the defense was terrible. And usually, when the defense is bad on all levels, the secondary looks more or less like the worst part of the whole group because you're not getting a pass rush, and these guys are covering too long, and they're throwing the ball all over the yard, and these guys are looking terrible, man. And so his second year, I think he was much better. He picked up a little bit more weight, and he presented himself on the field a whole lot better and a whole lot more competent the next year. But did he do enough during the season to warrant them? I think he's one thing about Elijah Hicks, and I think they like this about him. Elijah Hicks is a dog. He's a dog. So whatever happens and the competition, whatever scale this competition level goes up to, I think he's going to be there to meet it. Is it going to be enough? Is he talented enough to beat out some of these guys that we have on the roster? I don't know, man. I just, it's just going to be interesting. I think there's several spots on this roster that are questionable for some guys. I think Jonathan Owens is basically he's the guy that Elijah Hicks should be worried about right now. And so that's what I think about this whole thing. I think in the end, I think Jonathan Owens is going to bump Elijah Hicks out of his spot, to be quite frank with you. That's the way I see it. Anybody disagree with that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now, how many safeties do you think they carry into the season?
No more than 3, 4. It'll be probably a safety on the practice squad.
I think 4. And I think they keep, obviously, Brisker stays. There's no question there. Kevin Bard's been signed. I think he starts. And I think they keep both Hicks and Owens.
Okay.
That's my thought. I think Quindell Johnson winds up getting bumped out. Like, there's a lot of heads here at safety that I didn't really realize. Quindell Johnson, question mark. Tavarius Moore, question mark.
Can't you know why I say that? It's because I think they're eyeballing one of the corners they drafted last year to slide back there. And I think
the safety position.
Yeah, I got a feeling it's going to be Terrell Smith. Yeah, I really do. I might be dead ass wrong, but I got something's telling me they're going to slide that cat back there.
Yeah, last year in training camp when he was a rookie, they did put him at safety and kind of test it out. I like him at cornerback just because when he did get a chance to play and from his college tape, he had one very good year that I still think there's a lot of upside to him as a cornerback, but he's got the body and skill set to absolutely fit at either safety position.
Yeah, I think In the Grasp is right, man. We brought in In the Grasp is saying we brought in 3 safeties for a reason. This offseason, Hicks is not the answer. I think, like I said, I think he's got an uphill battle, even though I think he's a dog. And anybody that has that kind of mindset, I never ever count them out. So I think he's going to make it difficult. But I think Elijah Hicks is that much of a dog. But if they decide to slide one of the corners back there, that all but rules him out, man. I just don't see them keeping him. But anybody else with anything to say about that, man? Because I just think this is going to be a tough roster, man. I think it's going to be a tough roster. I think where it stands right now, yes, he's big enough, Richard Long. He was 200 pounds when we brought him in, but he doesn't appear to be 200 pounds because he's so long. And his 200 pound doesn't appear to be bulky. And so I think over the offseason, I imagine Terrell Smith will put on 5 pounds before he gets back into camp this year. 5 to 7 pounds. I can see it happening.
They have him listed here at 207, which is bigger than Hicks as it stands.
He's Terrell Smith.
That's what he's listed here on this, like what we're looking at right now.
Wow. Yeah, he's got a chest, man. He's long arms and he's got a big barrel chest.
Yeah, I don't. If that's what they do, I could see them doing it. It would actually be a great It would be a great roster move if they feel that he can actually handle the safety position. They can clean up a couple of these guys because again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a lot of guys at the safety position. I don't know why they have that many. Anyhow, a couple of those guys are going to disappear if one of them is also Elijah Hicks. Then you kind of got a hybrid guy who's on the roster here in Terrell Smith who could cover your corner case scenario if somebody goes down, or he could cover your safety position if somebody goes down. That's also a good problem to have.
He also went down quite a bit himself last year. He was, and playing that safety position may be a little bit more physical. Uh, may or may not be, but he's got to stay healthy too.
I think In the Grass just hit it for you, Chris, man. I'm gonna read a statement. In the Grass says, yes, Hicks is a dog. I just don't think he's gonna make it. Hicks I think is too small, and his missed tackling is not a good look. I think all of that is right. Absolutely right. I think the physical nature of being a safety in the NFL is rough on him. I think, to be quite frank with you, I think it's too physical for him, and I think he'd be probably better off as a slot corner somewhere else, if not on this team, But safety, I think, is a little too physical for him, man. He's just not built for it. Anybody agree or disagree with that?
No, I think we've covered safety pretty well. I really love the secondary. I'll just say that. And I think Byard doesn't get enough talk as far as how good he is and what a good signing he is. I think he's a 2-year contract, so I do see him just because of his age playing out the 2 years and then us going after a free safety in the draft or something like that. But I love the secondary.
Yeah,
me too.
This secondary is gonna. You can take down the graphic now, Chris, because we pretty much wrapped that up, man. Let me get to some. Let me see. I had a start question in here. I think Cliff Victoria had.
Bob Avellini died, by the way. Rest in peace, Bob Avellini, former Bear quarterback. Was the first quarterback when I was a kid that took the Bears to the playoffs in '78. Tough
Isn't there a
guy.
hip hop song about him by Del the Funky Homo Sapien?
I couldn't tell you that. I just know him from actual real life.
That was just for your jazz comment.
Remember
hip hop heads know. Rest in peace, Bob Avellini. Either way,
I'm just trying to remember what era he played in. Was Walter there when he played?
Yeah, he played with Walter. '78's the year that I kind of remember the best because they did go to the playoffs. But Avellini, the one thing that jumped out at me about Bob Avellini is he was tough. He wasn't the best quarterback, but
Mr. Avellini.
Yes, Bob Avellini.
Mr. Bob Avellini.
Mr. Bob Avellini. I remember one game in particular where his elbow got injured, and it looked as though someone sewed a tennis ball literally under his skin, right at his elbow. It was one of the most grotesque things I'd ever seen. It looked like the knot on Ronquilon's head after the Holyfield fight.
How did he do that, man?
I somehow he injured his elbow, but man, it looked as though he had a tennis ball sewed under his skin. It was. I've never been able to find a photo of it on the internet, and I have looked. But
I got friends who are skateboarders, and when you slam your elbow on the concrete, it swells up like a ball. They call it swellbo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nasty.
Yeah, it was pretty grotesque. But rest in peace to him. I know he had some issues later in life, but. Avellini. And also the Bears did cut the punter from last year. What was his name?
Trenton Gill.
Trent Gill was cut.
He's back to waiting tables in North Dakota now.
Yeah.
No, he'll be kicking in he'll be kicking in
AFL Arena League.
No, he'll be kicking for the Jets in about 4 weeks. Give him
God.
Man, hey. Listen, let me get to a star comment I have for Cliff Victoria, man. I think he's asking the question. Cliff Victoria says, Calais Campbell and Ogba or Yannick. He's trying to say a combination of the two or Yannick. Plus, another decent edge may still be released in the preseason. That is true. So he's saying, what do you think about the combination of Calais Campbell and Agba versus the contract you're gonna give to Yannick?
I'll give it to my guy Chris.
You sure
Chris, you jumped in. Go.
Sure you want to do that?
All right, fine.
No,
I'm gonna have.
I was gonna say that could be Glenn Campbell and Oprah, and I'd still sign him over Yannick.
Nicely played.
I hope the hell you ain't watching this goddamn show, man, because I wanted to see one of these days if you ever want to come on the show, Yannick, we won't have Chris producing that motherfucker that day.
Yeah,
So
we have to
come on the show.
kick Chris off the show. Same token, Bayless Jones, if you're joining, you may want to boot me off the show. It's all good.
But I won't miss for injury. I may get cut, but I won't miss for injury.
Oh, but
Man.
that was cold-blooded, Chris.
So, all right, J2K. What I'm saying to you is, I never saw Calais Campbell as an edge rusher. I always saw him as he's a versatile piece. He can go inside and out, but you get most of your production from Calais Campbell from the inside. And I do like Agba. You know, he got a bad rap. I think after he left Detroit, you know, he made some money and, you know, really didn't perform after that. I don't think that's the end of it. I think if he gets on a team and gets with a coach that can really get him to where he needs to be, I think you can get some nice production out of Agba. But I do believe if you can get Yannick and Ngakoue back in here for the right amount of money and he's healthy, I think he's the guy to go and get if that's where you find yourself in the free agent pool. I think he can still bring a whole lot to the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. And isn't Campbell pretty old? Like really old?
He's 37 years old.
Definitely put up
37?
more numbers than Yannick did last year. That's also to be noted.
That is impressive.
Thanks for saving me that breath.
There you go.
And Calais Campbell would also be a very good presence in the locker room.
Oh yeah. Now that's one of the variables he would bring to the table that added to the value that he brings on the field. Yes, everybody respects Calais Campbell.
I mean,
my
also
biggest
brings
issue,
chicken.
my biggest issue is just how much do we take away from Booker getting snaps? So I'm fine with signing a vet. I think the Bears roll it back with Yannick, but I want Booker to have his opportunity. And if Yannick or Campbell or whoever we sign is okay playing behind a young guy just so he can get reps, then I'm all for it. But I really want to see what Booker can do.
See, I'm less worried about Booker's reps than I am worried about the potential of a hurt Montez Sweat and what that does to the defense, right? If he's missing in action, we really are going to need another guy on that defensive line. So that's my 2 cents there. I hope they find somebody, whether it's Khalid Campbell, whether it's Agba or Yannick Ngakoue. Personally,
there's other guys out there.
Forget about Oprah.
Yeah, Oprah as well.
They've got other.
Why did I hear you knocking on wood over there, Nomad, when he was talking about Sweat being hurt? I thought I was surely going to hear some wood getting.
Probably because I was reading the chat, man.
Okay.
Ain't nobody producing but me. I'm trying to do dual diligence here, but yeah, I think they're going to sign somebody. It's just a matter of who. You know, who is it they're going to sign? Will they make a trade? I would love to see Trey Hendrickson be traded and added to this team, man. I think he's a dynamite pass rusher and exactly the prototypical 4-3 defensive end that you would need to really get the job done. You know, he's everything. He doesn't lack in any area, whether it be set.
How do we pay him, man?
You didn't have to pay Justin Fields. You're gonna have money. You just restructure some contracts if you have.
How do we pay Trey Hendrickson?
What kind of money will he be?
No. He wants premium money. He had 17.5 sacks last year. The dude, he wants a substantial raise.
How do you know that?
Because he's had 17.5 sacks last year.
I think from what I heard, his comment said that more than anything else, he just wants to be stable and wants a home.
And
So,
that means 30 million a year.
I'm hoping this
okay,
bag is full.
okay.
When I
Yeah,
get home.
that's 30 million.
he makes 15 now. He makes 15 now, Chris. And so
I know.
I'm thinking, in order, if you extend that out to 3 or 4 years, add on another $3 million, $4 million to that, and give
No.
most of it. Hold on, give most of it to him up front. I think that wins the game right there.
Seems pretty low. I mean, if you're talking about even a 4-year with a 3, you're talking about $12 million. A bonus of $12 million. He's gonna want $60 million guaranteed at least.
Then you give it to him.
Oh, you got to have the space, to get it. I'm not saying they can't make it. I'm just saying, man, that's a disruptor right there, to your cap situation and your future cap.
Yeah. I think other teams find ways to do this shit. And I think we are, as fans, we are used to seeing this team take the cheap way out of every fucking thing, and I'm sick of it.
Well,
if
I
you
don't
got
think
a guy
so.
out there, find a way to get him.
Well, I think it's easier to do during free agency than it is during the summer. If you don't have, we've got like $15 million in cap space right now, so I'm not sure how you free up. If you look at the cap situation, the Bears don't have a ton of super high paid players. I mean, I think Keenan Allen, DJ, and Sweat are the top money makers.
That's it. Jalen Johnson, that's it.
Oh, and Jalen, I forgot about him. But again, they only have 15 million in cap space, and that was before they signed some of their rookies. So I'm not sure that they're going.
You get what I'm saying, though, Chris? Do you see?
Man, I would love to have Trey Hendrickson on this team. I would absolutely love it. I was the guy pushing for a edge signing in free agency. One of the big guys, but it didn't happen, and they've shifted those resources to other places. So we don't. I don't know that we can do it. Not to his liking. I really think he wants to be amongst the top paid edge rushers in the league, and he should be with 17 and a half sacks last year. I mean, guys get one chance at the big money, and he's not going to say, "Okay, you got me out of Cincinnati, sign me for $20 million a year."
Brian just got another $3 million after he cut Bourne.
That ain't gonna get it.
There's a bunch of other people you can cut too, right? Like if you're saying they're at 15 to 12 to 15 right now, they could probably squeeze up another, in and around that 20 range to sign another player. Mind you, if that player is expecting over and above guarantee this season, I'm not sure how you manage.
Well,
that.
and he hasn't been a big fan of extending guys and pushing money out into the future. I mean, he could do that with Tremaine. There's some guys he could push some money out to the future, but I don't think he likes doing that. He doesn't like.
You don't want to do it with Tremaine. Yeah. You kind of want Tremaine to play this season and see how he does. You can make a final decision on whether you want to continue with this thing the following year.
Yeah.
Last little question I'll ask all of you guys. Chris, stay in for a second. Let's just say this is just a scenario I can picture playing out. Let's just say we go into the season with what we have on the roster. Let's just say, what's his name? DeMarcus Walker ends up being your starting other defensive end. And we wait. And let's just say we get off to a rip-roaring start. We get off, win like 4 games in a row, maybe one loss, and get somewhere near a trade deadline, and we make a trade for the DN then. How would you guys feel about that? Waiting all the way until, or would you rather see that happen before we go into the season, giving us a better chance to get off to a better start?
Well, I think they're more likely to do it at the trade deadline.
You think so?
Well, he's shown that. He's shown that he's more. I mean, he's made major trades the last 2 seasons. So I think there's some advantage. Go ahead, kids. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying it just depends on what Ryan Poles is really trying to do with the Chicago Bears this season. If you're trying to win the Super Bowl and or go deep into the playoffs, you do it now. And why I say that is because now you've got a leg up and a jump on the first few games of the season, as opposed to sort of meandering your way through them and seeing whether you're going to win or not. You just go out there and you kick the doors down.
And I think the scenario you just presented, I mean, that's going to weigh heavily on how Caleb plays.
For
So,
sure.
Yeah, so I mean that's going to say a lot. I mean, we'll see. That's going to dictate everything how Caleb plays.
So what is that?
Wow.
Trade deadline usually about what, week 7 or something?
It's usually in early November, I believe, or
Yeah,
Halloween. It's usually around Halloween, I think.
That's usually about week 6, week 7 or some shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, week 7 is the trade deadline, and what I project polls to do is to see where this team is at. If we're 6-1 at that trade deadline, and he can make a trade for a top edge rusher, I wouldn't be surprised that he makes that move. We've got 77 million next year in cap space, which is huge, and then the year after we have 175. So you really see how much room Poles has to bring in another edge guy and even a trade. And even if we don't have the money this year, you can always get tricky with a contract where you can give them a 3-4 year contract. You give them a large guarantee, but those guarantees don't kick in their roster bonuses in the next year and the year after and the year after.
I think he's shown. I think he's more aggressive now, Chris. If you look at history would probably tell you you're right. He'll wait till the trade deadline and do something like that. But I think with this, how bold he's been this offseason and how much conviction he's shown during this offseason, letting Justin go, drafting a rookie quarterback, and then building what looks like a playoff roster around this cat. I think he's bold, right? I think he's more of what Kid says he is right now. Let's kick the damn doors in. If we think we're going to be good, let's just go out here right now and get prepared to be as good as we think we can be. Put all the pieces in place so there's really not a lot of room for no holes there. I think he's gonna do something beforehand.
Well, and also keep in mind, you need a dance partner. So you're going to look at that trade deadline, and there's going to be teams that are 1-6, but they've got a good edge rusher that has, 2 years left on his contract. They may be willing to trade him just to get that cap space back, to gain a draft pick and, improve their rebuild, as opposed to us if we're 6-1 and we're ready to hit the playoffs. And keep in mind, we got 5 years before we got to pay our quarterback. So Poles has plenty of room to do stuff in this window.
So let me flip it at you, Jake. Okay, what if they are 4-3? 3-4. Three wins, 4 losses at that trade deadline. What do you do?
Well, I still think the room to the cap room still gives you room to play, and I think you look at why are they 3-4. I remember Lovie Smith's. I think it was his second year, and we were 1-3, and he was telling the media, "We've got a very, very good defense. And we just barely lost games. Everything was starting to gel, and then we won, I think, 10 games straight after that 1-3 start." So I think you look at why it happened, but I definitely think that Poles is, he's in a great position. He put us in a great position with the cap space and the potential to do more for this team come that trade deadline.
Hey, I wanted to bring this up, man. Cliff asked a hell of a good question here. Thank you for this one, Cliff. Cliff Victoria says, how are they doing preseason cuts this year? All in one day or a week again? I heard somewhere several months ago that it was going to be all at once. I don't know if I'm accurate about that, but I believe I saw somewhere that this year was going to be all all the cuts were going to happen at once. If somebody wants to run that down right quick, I don't know, but I believe, Cliff, that I saw somewhere that they were going to do all the cuts in one day. And so I think that's, to be quite frank, from a coaching standpoint, I would have to imagine that's hell to have to make all those decisions at once, because it's easier to stretch those decisions than to, have to do it all at once. That's a lot to think about all at once. I don't know. This is why, some of the people that make these rules and change these rules have no business in the room when those fucking decisions are being made, because how is that? I just don't understand. If they're doing that all in one day, that's just, I don't know how that benefits a coach. I could see how it benefits the players to a certain extent, because they get extra looks, I guess. I don't know. But how it benefits a coach, I don't know. It's got to be a logistical nightmare for a fucking coach.
Would they get more looks? I would think it would be worse for the players. Like, and I'll just frame it here for a second.
Not
So,
for
like,
it.
if the cut process is staggered over a few weeks, a certain amount of players will get released week one. Teams will have the opportunity to actually look at them and bring them into their programs if that's what they want to do. Cutting everybody at the same time just sort of makes it a free-for-all.
Yeah, it used to be that we would go from 85 to 80 and then to 53 while you're building out your practice squad. But this year they just ditched the whole 85 to 80 thing. And now it's 53. You fill out your practice squad. And I think the date is August 29th.
Yeah.
So let's just say, kids, that just imagine there's a guy on the roster that got axed that first round of cuts. Now he gets to, if that's the case about, all of them getting cut at the same time, now he gets to linger for a while, and maybe a play that he made or didn't make, he gets a chance to make that play later on or two, because of the fact that he got extra couple days on the roster. I don't know how it's going to look, but I would imagine that's the only benefit that comes out of this. It would be for the players. And if there's going to be a benefit to it, it should be benefiting to the players. But what a logistical nightmare the organization has to go through to have to do that shit all at once.
Like I say, I'm not sure if it's a benefit or detriment to the player. Somebody would have to prove that to me, because again, if you were let go early, you have the opportunity of going and trying out with another team.
I think there's a slight benefit. You just get a little more time with the team you're with, just to show more tape. And keep in mind, the tape that is generated during this time is actually available to all NFL teams. Practice squad tape and training camp, it is available until you actually run your scheme, which is specific days where, like, no media presence, no video available kind of things. You can still hide a player, but you can't hide everything nowadays.
You know what it's going to look like? And I'll say this, I'll put this right on out here right now. It's going to look like a gigantic fucking player swap, because I think the last game will be played on a Saturday evening, and the cuts will have to be in on Sunday at about, probably Sunday at about 3 o'clock or at midnight. I don't know. But right after that mark, it's going to look like probably everybody's going to have to camp out inside their franchise buildings. And so it's going to look like a giant player swap, because everybody's going to identify who they want from these other teams. And so it's going to be like, I think they're going to cut this player. They might over here is going to cut that player. And they're already looking at your roster the same way, seeing who they can cherry pick off your roster. So that's what it's going to look like. And so that next day, and the podcasts are going to be a free for all after that, because it's going to be a huge fucking day of news.
Yeah, it's another form of free agency, basically.
Yeah.
A lower tier, but it's gonna. Yeah, we're gonna see dramatic changes to practice squads because all the cuts are happening on one day versus before. Going from 85 to 80, you could say, okay, let's hide this guy on our practice squad. Let's not give him a bunch of reps here or there. Now I don't think you can do that, because everything's happening on one day. It's just going to be a huge ocean of players.
Circle. So whatever date that comes up, that's going to be one hell of a day. Immortal said asses and elbows everywhere. You ain't lying, man. That's what it's going to be. That's exactly what it's going to be. So great question, Cliff Victoria, because that's this is going to be the first time they ever did that. So it's going to be interesting to see how
they
did
it this past season, bro.
What's that?
They did it this season.
I think they took one stage out. It used to be from the first cut was to 75, and then they cut down to something else. I think they took out a stage this year. I don't know. I'm sleeping.
It wasn't all at once. I know that.
I'm pretty sure it was.
It was at least 2 phases to it. It wasn't just one.
Yeah, I was just reading that last year it was 85 to 80. And from what I remember before that, I thought it was 75. So I think they increased the number.
So they took out the 75 to 80 then. I guess maybe there was one phase and then full cut.
Yeah, well, it used to be 75, but then they decided to give teams 10 more roster spots through training camp. And then this year, it's 85 as far as camp bodies, and then 53 practice squad, and that's it.
I'm gonna look that shit up and see exactly how the dynamics of that's going to play out, because that might turn into a whole fucking another level of entertainment, man. It's going to be interesting to see how fast that all shakes out, man. And
I don't know how entertaining these things are going to be in that respect. At that point, I think
you're not a pure football head at heart, man. Bro, you gotta love that kind of shit.
There was a time when I did. I'm not sure if that's where we are with this team. And at that point this season, we're ready to go, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like we're ready to go.
Opportunities are gonna be there for your team when that happens, man. You know how many?
I'm not sure. Like I'm saying, almost every room on this team.
Listen to Cliff. It's like a minor fucking draft, kids. That's what it's gonna look like.
I'm just saying, bro. I think every room at that point of the season, beginning, end of August, I think every room will be airtight. I don't know who's getting up in there after that. That's just me. And that's saying a lot.
It's going to be a lot going on, and I can't fucking wait for it. But I got to tell you something. I got to get ready to get out of here, man, because I'm half-ass Mexican today. I got a sombrero in there waiting on me and a whole lot of fucking tequila. And a girlfriend who's off tonight, and she's probably moving shit around in there making a lot of noise. I can hear her right now, like, get your ass off this podcast. It's time. So let's give some pleasantries so we can get up out of here, kid.
Well, no maniacs. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'd say cheers, but my drink is finished. So cheers to all of those out there who actually have a full drink. I'll be reading up on my drink momentarily. Give a couple of you guys some love. Definitely big love to our guy Cliff Victoria for hanging out with us all night here. Mr. Mayhem, Immortal, Brian Hendren, not behind the boards today. Thanks for hanging out with us online. The Bishop, didn't see you in the chat today, Bishop, but big love to you as always. Richard Long, in the grasp. Who else we got? FFG Style showed up, hung out with us for a bit. Smitty Q and the original Smitty, Scottish Bear, Cornelius Squalls. Who else we got out there? Oh, Mr. Shorty stopped in and he must have heard us talking about Tyson Bagent. Who else is out there? I don't know, man. You guys were awesome. In the grasp. I'm not sure if I said in the grasp. Big love to you too. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. We just chopped it up on some hip hop, on some Kendrick Lamar and Drake. That was fun. It looks like apparently there's another diss track. So by all means, go listen to that too. And we'll chop it up again maybe next week on the same topic. But outside of that, I think the Bears team by September, bro, is just going to be ready to lock and load. So I don't need any more UDFAs at that point. I'm ready to go. You know what? I'm ready to go right now. Bear down, J2K, what do you got to say?
Yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Be safe. Have a great week. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are always my bear brothers and sisters. Appreciate you guys always hanging out. Always good to chat with you guys live, or if I'm in another podcast talking with you guys. So appreciate you guys. You make this whole thing work for us. And yeah, be safe. Have a great night, everyone.
Hey, ditto to what everybody just said so far, man. Hey, happy Cinco de Mayo, man. Listen, I'm a good time guy. Tell you that right off the top. I'll celebrate any damn holiday, long as it's drinking and partying. Hell, I'll wear a sombrero tonight. Hell, I'll drink Killian's on whenever the Irish celebrate. I don't give a damn. Long as it's a good time, I want to have one with you. You know. So that being said, man, enjoy yourself, but do it safely. Be in a space that you're comfortable in. Do it safely. Don't be driving when you half-ass drunk. Don't be, oh, I'm all right, and get in the car. Don't do that shit, man. Don't do it. It's too easy to get an Uber. It's too easy to get something, man. Get you a ride. Get somebody that can drive that's not been drinking like you have, but do it the right way, man. Have fun, but have fun responsibly. I know that's cliche. I know it's cliche, but that's important as fuck. When you have fun, make sure you have a plan to have fun. Don't just be out there having fun and don't have if you got your car over here on the other side of town and you're scared to leave your car on the other side of town and you're going to drive it home unsafely. No, man, leave that car on the other side of town. Hopefully your ass got insurance on it and it's bonded. But you should have made a plan for that, man. But don't get in that car if you've been drinking too much. Let somebody else drive that car. Wait till the next day and go get it, whatever you need to do. But don't be a fool out here, man, because you're not just putting your life on the line. There's other people that have shit to do with you and your foolishness tonight, man. So don't be driving if you've been drinking too much, man. So I just wanted to put that out there and say happy Cinco de Mayo. And as far as the Drake conversation went, I will be having much more to discuss when it comes to these kinds of matters later, but we'll get into that another day. I just think, you guys get to hear me and these guys talk about football so much and the Bears so much that you might not know that we have, interest in other parts of our lives. I'm much more interested in, the stability of society as a whole, human nature as a whole, you know, global warming. Do we have a planet that's sustainable enough? Do we have a culture that's sustainable enough so that young people can flourish? Babies is coming up. Is this the kind of world that you want to see your child grow up in? What kind of world are you giving them? Is he getting something that's poison or something that's plentiful? You have to start making decisions and doing your part to impact what the culture looks like. So if it's not for you, if you're old enough to have grandchildren, whatever it is, be mindful of that. Don't live your life in a binary way. Live your life thinking about what you're putting here. I'm absolutely concerned with the way we are as a society towards each other, the pop culture and the images and the sounds and the messages that are being put out. I think it's absolutely poisonous. And I think it's poisonous for a reason. I think these people know what they're doing. And I think there are people that are greedy and narcissistic enough to keep that shit going. All you have to do is show them the money. Throw them the alley-oop, they'll dunk that shit. Show them money. That's all you need to do. But life is bigger than that. Life is bigger than that. So do me a favor. You like anything that went on the show, you like the content, if you think it's something to look forward to tomorrow or the next day, give us a thumbs up. But more than anything, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we got a lot more to give. A lot more to give. And so we would appreciate if you did that for us, man. Absolutely love doing this stuff. But the Nomad Network is by far not going to stay doing Bears coverage for long, man. We're going to always do it, but that won't be the thing that, we're most remembered by. I'll just put it to you by that. You'll always love the Bears coverage, but we got more coming. I'll just say that. But please hit the like and subscribe button on the way out the door. And before we get out of here, I got to leave you with these famous words. Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
And rat beef. Boom.